The board meeting of the Seal Rock Rural Fire Protection District to order. You've gotten all the names of the people, Mary Lou, so good.
I did.
The first item on the agenda is board member positions. We're in the beginning of a new fiscal year, so we're time to redo our positions on the board. I am stepping down as the president of the board, and Peter has accepted the responsibility, and he'll carry that load.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, I'm not quite done
This
yet.
is Tina.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can just finish. We have to vote on this, so.
Okay.
And then I don't know if you want to still be the secretary, Tina.
I'm fine with that.
Okay, and you be the treasurer, Dustin.
No, I'd prefer not be.
Okay. Would anyone want to step up to be the treasurer of the board? How about you, Larry? Are you up for something like that?
Nope.
No? Okay, well, we'll, I guess, leave the position unfulfilled. So I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that we select the officers as presented. Can I have a second on the motion?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay, that sounds good, Peter. Okay, now Tina, this is your opportunity to discuss the motion.
I would like to make a motion that somebody else be the president. I don't know how to do that, so.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
I said I would like to make the motion that there be a different person president. I mean, I know you and Peter talked about this, but I mean, I don't know that. So I don't know.
Okay. Well, who else would like to be the president?
Well, I would like to nominate Larry.
Okay. Well, I had a long discussion with Larry, and he said that it just was very difficult for him at this time to accept that position. That he was willing to. Go ahead, Larry. You can speak for yourself.
Yeah, and I for all listeners, I did have a conversation with John, and I told him that my daughter's been diagnosed with breast cancer just a few weeks back, and that it's a difficult time. At the last meeting, I had talked and said that I could support Vice President Peter Benjamin, if he was wanting to take a change of course here, not just have things be the way that they've been. And I called Mr. Benjamin and talked with him and expressed my feelings. And he said he had to think about it, and he never got back with me. And so I'm not real happy on voting for a complete slate of officers, even though a second's been made, a motion's been made by the chair, and a second's been made. So I'm just not real happy on voting for a complete package. And I also I've expressed to Chair Soltow that I cannot continue on this board with this board being the way that it is. It's just almost, and so my concern is that I think that it will, under this, if Peter takes it. And so I would love for Tina or for Dustin to take board chair, but they don't want to, I would be willing to. I got a lot on my plate, and I understand how much it takes to do the job. But I'm sorry, I just can't keep things going the way that they are. So my support would not be for either Peter or John as an officer. And so irregardless of how a vote goes or how the other people feel, I would just for the current motion want everybody to know I'm going to be voting no. And the reasons why is just because we can't continue this way.
Okay. Are there any other comments on the motion? So are we ready to vote on the motion? I don't hear any response from anyone.
Yeah, I think we're ready to vote, John.
Okay. So the motion is that Peter will accept the president's job. I would be the vice chair. Tina would remain as the secretary, and we would have an unfilled position at treasurer. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Can I
Aye.
hear your name, please?
It was
John.
John first. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And Peter.
So I've got John. Who else?
Peter did.
And Dustin.
And Dustin. Okay. All those opposed?
I am.
Opposed?
Okay,
So
be
that's
it noted
Tina and
that,
Larry.
yes.
Okay.
So the motion passes with a majority vote, 3-2. So Peter will assume the presidency of the board, and I'll be the vice president. Okay, so I'll hand the meeting over to Peter.
Okay, well, obviously we don't have a unanimous vote here, so I would love to sit down individually with Larry and Tina to talk about what your concerns are and what you would like to see happen. But I'll get together with you guys later separately for that purpose. So let us continue down the agenda. Let us look at the draft minutes. Does anybody have any changes or additions that they would like to make?
I
Yeah,
do.
Larry. It's Larry here, Peter, too. Somebody else said something.
Okay, well, why don't you go ahead, Larry, and then we'll go to the next person.
Okay. On page 3 of the minute, under the intergovernmental agreement,
Mm-hmm.
and this is Mary Lou's doing a great job. I really appreciate her job. It's just that I made a second to a motion, and the motion that I seconded was that towards the bottom of page 3 under intergovernmental agreement, it says that Director Fritz made a motion to have President Soltow and Director Benjamin on the oversight committee for the IGA. And the motion that I seconded was to have the board president and Director Benjamin, and Chair Soltow was at that time the chair of the board. So my feeling, as I tried to express whenever I said that on seconding, is that I think that the president should be on all committees, and of course that would not just be included as President Soltow, whoever is the president, and then now you're the president, so if Director Salthow still wants to stay on that and the board wants to have him on that, that's great. It's just that my second was for the president, the board president, and another director.
I don't believe that that's what was written and spoke, because we went over that motion several times, and I reread it to the people in attendance, and it was agreed that that's the way it was to be worded.
This is Tina. I worded it the way Larry was talking about it. I think it just kind of all got jumbled up because I was in agreement. I made a motion for the president, who at the time was John, and then one other person to be part of that committee.
So, is it agreeable that the same two individuals go, or does somebody feel that it's important that John not be included?
No, I just think it's important that the president has to be part of that committee.
And he is.
Right. But
Right.
I think it needs to be worded that way.
Yeah.
Well,
because
at
next
the time
next year you may have a different president, a different bunch, and so this way here is what I tried to make plain, is that the president needs to be on that committee, and it's not just two people selected at random. It's the board chair, board president needs to be on that committee so that they can keep the rest of the committee or the district directors apprised of what's going on. Otherwise, we're going to be in the dark. Because as I look back at the last thing that happened, yeah. Well, anyway, that's just my feeling. I don't know if you want to change the minutes or not, but at least in this meeting here, it'll be in the minutes that I expressed my concerns on that, whether we change it or not.
Well, I think at the time, President Salto was President Salto, and that should be reflected in the minutes. I think that your concerns about this, especially since they don't concern changing anybody out, is that we should reflect that it's now President Benjamin and Director Salto that is going.
That would be great. That would be absolutely great, as long as it's in there that the board chair, board president is the one to be selected. Nothing personal against anybody. It's just that we need to make sure that whoever is going to be on this committee, one of them is going to be the board chair.
That's fine. I think that will be noted in the minutes and honored.
All right, so Peter, just so that I understand, do you want me to then change the motion to read Director Fritz made a motion to have the president and a director on the oversight committee and not put anybody's names in there?
No.
We don't. Yeah, we don't need to change last meeting's minutes because they reflect what actually occurred. What you can do is in this meeting's minutes clarify the fact that he wants the board chair and John, and is happy to have John as a board member go in this committee. Right,
and that could just be to add a little line or whatever to the minutes that says that committee members shall apprise, like you said, Peter, the district board chair and another board member. Yes, that should be reflected in the main minutes for this meeting.
I got it.
Correct.
Okay. Any other comments on the minutes?
Yeah, I have a couple of things that I actually made an error on. I believe it's on page 2, submission of written comments. I wrote out Seal Rock Board of Directors at gmail.com, and it should have been Seal Rock BOD at gmail.com. So I'd like to have that corrected, and I'd also like to, I left out a statement, and the very first sentence is Chief Sequeira stated there were no submissions on the Seal Rock Board of Directors Gmail.
Okay. Any further comments on the minutes? Okay. Hearing none, I'm going to move on to financial reports. And I want to point out before I start doing this that it is probably not a good idea to have the board president also doing treasury duties. So I will deliver the financial report this month, but I think everybody should, the treasurer position is not difficult and doesn't take up a lot of time. And so I would encourage people to think about whether they would like to take up this role so that we don't have an appearance of conflict of interest. That said, I'm going to move forward to the financial report. Okay, starting with the balance sheet. We have operating funds of $402,317. And let me break this out for people that are a little confused about what our cash position is. We have in our bank account $6,625. We have in our what is called the OGIP account, which is a pool of funds managed by the state for the benefit of special districts. We have $395,492, and cash on hand is $200, and that leads to a total of cash basically of $402,317. Next item is the LoSAP funds, which total $46,238. Next item
Peter?
is yes.
Larry here.
Go.
Can I ask a question before we get too far into to the next item?
Sure.
Going back up at the assets, where we have $402,317.
Yes.
I've been trying for quite a while to figure out how we got to that number right there, and I was hoping that Mel would be here and be able to explain it, because we had $478,242 in May, and we only took out, what was it? It was kind of a crazy way of going around, and I think this is one of the things that's getting some people confused. And I still can't figure out how we got to that 402,317, because it shows by my accounting something like 65,925 difference between May and June, and I don't know where the money went.
Well, the money, where the money went is reflected on the money that came in and the money that we paid out, and that's later in the report.
Okay. Point it out for me, would you, whenever we get to it? Thank you.
Well, I'll try to do that. I wasn't prepared to do that, but anyway.
But it should be on the report. I couldn't find it, so I'm sorry. Excuse my ignorance, and please educate me.
Well, we'd have to dig a little bit probably, and I don't think we can do that tonight. But I will research it, and I'll get back to you on that.
Thanks.
Okay, let me write that down so that I actually do it. Bear with me. Okay. So moving on. Going down the list, under liabilities and equity, accounts payable currently $8,320. Credit cards payable $1,424. All right. Moving on to income and expense for the month of June. And this, of course, is the end of the fiscal year period. So this sums up everything we've done this year. So under income this month, we've received a total of $15,010. Under expenses, the total for firefighter fund expenses is $33,164. Chief fund expenses are $7,364. And general fund expenses, which is all of our bills basically, $10,708. So board members got the financials. The next item I'm looking at is the expense detail. And I'm not going to highlight any of this, but you're welcome to look it all over. And hopefully either me or the chief can tell you, explain anything that you don't understand.
Peter, it's Larry here again.
Yeah.
And what I don't understand is we were on the balance sheet at line item on the LoSAP funds 46,238, and then we jumped over to the income and expense account, and we missed the rest of the balance sheet.
Actually, I talked about it, but if you want me to repeat it, I'll do that. So after the LoSAP funds, we go to the truck and building reserve funds, and that is a total of $189,288. And then down near the bottom of the page, accounts payable of $8,320 and credit cards payable of $1,424. So are you with me?
Right, I'm there. We skipped over the assets, which is fine. But on the second sheet.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go over it?
Well, I could read them off to you.
Well, I guess I can just jump to my question. It says here on the very next to the, up from the bottom, there's the figure 38506, which is net income. Do you see it there?
Where are you looking? Where are you looking?
It's on the second sheet of the balance sheet. Under equity, net income.
Yes.
308,506. And my question is that 308,506 net income, what all we're showing is an overage on the budget versus actual report?
Yeah, no, the budget versus actual is later.
Yeah, I know, but is that the same number? The
I have no idea. I haven't looked. Yeah, I haven't looked, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. That's a good answer. Thanks.
But it will be addressed in the budget versus actual. Okay, income and expenses. And yeah, we already did that. So the next thing is the expense detail. Once again, this is just a detailed view of everything that was on the previous report so that you know exactly where all of the money went. And it's about 4 pages long, and you can see for yourself. If you've got questions about that, probably should address them to the chief, because he's the one who actually is paying the bills, or writing the checks, I should say.
I have a question. What went
Sure.
to the C Western?
Well, let's get to the detail then.
Okay.
Or you can, let's ask the chief. What do we pay money to see?
You guys were cutting out.
Okay, the question was, what did we buy from C Western?
C Western, we had Landon's turnouts, that his second set of turnouts that he ordered, that was ordered the month previously.
Okay, so we're paying for turnout.
Thank
And in fact, on if you look at the memo line, it says turnouts, Blake. All right, are we done with expense detail? So now let's get on to the budget versus actual. This is the end of the fiscal year, so the percent of budget, if it was an ideal world, would be 100% for everything. That never happens. But as far as income is concerned, we got 102% of what we budgeted. If we go to on the expense end, firefighter fund expenses were 103% of budget. The chief's fund expenses were 88% of the budget. And now all the other stuff that we spend money on ended up at 77% of what we budgeted. And then down in the kind of the miscellaneous area, which is mostly truck and building fund expenses, we only spent 59% of the budget. So, pretty good. Questions there? All right, let's move forward to the bill. Yes.
So the total percent, which is the last line there of the budget versus actual report, we only spent 73% of what was budgeted for year 2019-2020. Is that correct?
Well, what I'm seeing here is that the total net income was budgeted as actually a loss of $52,507, and we ended up $38,506 ahead. So we ended up $91,013 ahead. And I will be frank with you, I don't understand the 73% figure. The percents are fine, but the actual dollar amounts are what we should concentrate on. And the moral of the story is, we ended the year within the budget.
And
which
on
is our
that
usual practice.
Yeah. And on that line, then we would have a $38,506 carryover.
No, that means that we ended up with, so that would be part of the carryover. And one of the things that everybody has to understand is the carryover is a large number, which in fact this year is going to be $555,809. And the reason for that is that our fiscal year just started 9 days ago, and we don't get any tax revenues until November. So we have to have that cash reserve to pay our bills for the next several months.
Correct. I understand that. I'm just trying to figure out what the carryover was between 2019, 2020, and now that we're going to be adding it too, because what the report appears to say is that we've only spent 73% of the budget, and we either have a 38,506 carryover, or as you had said earlier, a $91,013 carryover, but we've got behind budget 52,507. And I guess that's my
Those
original
numbers
point.
are not the carryover. They're just the difference between what we budgeted and what actually occurred. So the total
Okay.
carryover is a lot larger. We entered this fiscal year with $588,234 in order to be able to pay our bills until we got our tax revenue. And we're coming out of this year with $555,809, which is going to be paying our bills for the next 4 or 5 months. So what this 38,506 represents is just the difference between what actually occurred and what we budgeted for.
So then why is it on line net income of the balance sheet for June on that we talked about earlier?
Partially because the format of our financial reports are mandated by the state of Oregon, and even our CPA doesn't quite understand why they have it written this way.
Right, and I think that's part of the frustration that not only I, but some of the other people in the community are experiencing with the budget process. But that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
You bet. Okay, so the next item is the bill. So let us now call for approval of the financial reports. Can I call for a motion to approve?
Yes, I'll make the motion to approve. This is John.
Okay. Do I have a second?
I'll second. This is Dustin.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed?
No, Larry.
Okay. The motion passes with a no from Larry. All right, moving on to the bills. Here's a listing of all the bills that were paid. There's a couple I'd like to comment on because they're kind of remarkable numbers. At the bottom of the first page is the Special Districts Association of Oregon, where we paid $7,326.54. And so this is the premium for the workers' compensation insurance. And even though it was paid on the last day of last month, it applies to this month, so it's reported this month. On the second page,
Peter, can I ask?
Yes.
Excuse me. So it was the premium for the workman's comp?
Workers' compensation insurance
Thank you.
for the year. Okay. The other item that needs to be addressed is the WHA insurance of $2,325. And that is for 2 accident, death, and disablement or dismemberment insurance. We have 2 different insurance programs. One is for the paid employees while they're on the job, and the other one is for the paid employees when they're not on the job. And that's the total for that. Any questions on the bills? All right. So, let me move on to the credit card charges. There's a long list. You can see what they are. They're pretty standard for a total of $1,422.63. I'd like to call for a motion to pay the bills.
I move that we pay the bills.
Okay. And
Is
a
that
second.
Dustin?
Yes, that was Dustin.
Thank you.
And a second.
I'll second it.
Okay. Tina, thank you. And all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Marvelous. Hearing none, it has passed unanimously. Okay. So, the final item is we need to actually move some money so that we can cover our checks. And that is the cash requirements that you see for a total of $31,000 from the LGIP fund, which is the government pool that the state has to go to our general bank account. So, can I have a motion to fund our checking account?
I move that we transfer $31,000 from the LGIP to the general bank.
Thank you. A second,
Was that
please.
Dustin?
Yes.
Yes, that was Dustin.
So, do we have a second?
I'll second that, Peter. This is John.
Thank you, John. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Hearing none, the measure passes. Thank you all. So let us
Peter?
move on. Yes.
I have one question. On the
Sure.
bottom of this, where it says note, 30,000 will be transferred on July 8th to cover overtime and back pay.
Yes.
Is that part of all this, or is that something
That is,
different?
yeah, that's actually part of all this. The chief has been researching overtime pay and back pay that never got paid in the past, and discovered that there's actually, if you look at the firefighter funds, they've got a lot of back pay entries there. And so
Okay.
this has been researched, and we want to do things right for the firefighters and get them paid properly. And so we're doing the catch up here to make that occur. And so that's what that is.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay then. If everybody's happy with that, we'll go on to old business. So, COVID-19 virus update, please.
Hi, this is Chief Sakaris. The latest update on the COVID-19, the governor has made an executive order that everybody in Oregon is to wear face masks in public places as well as stores and even some places outside. For Lincoln County, we have 300, and as of the 8th, 349 cases. That's more than doubled in the last month. Negative tests for that they have is 4,776. Hospitalized during the illness was 8. Recoveries is 16, and deaths in our county are 4. So that right there is the update on the COVID-19. They expect another spike of the virus. So please, everybody, when you're outside or in public, wear your mask and make sure that you stay safe. That's what I have for the COVID-19 update this month.
Okay,
Tom?
thank you.
Tom,
Yes,
What was the total again for the state?
the total for the state is 349.
I thought you said that was Lincoln County.
That's Lincoln County.
All right, for the state, was it 4,000 something?
No, that is negative tests in Lincoln County.
And what was that number again?
4,776. This information is just Lincoln County.
4,700.
76.
So that was the number of tests.
That's the number
Negative,
of
negative results.
negative results.
Got it.
Okay. Going on to the intergovernmental agreement.
The intergovernmental agreement, I have been meeting with Chief Woodson and Chief Mason weekly. We have tried to schedule the oversight committee meeting, but due to conflicting schedules, this hasn't happened yet. The next meeting they have on the monkey survey that Chief Mason has put out for next week, hopefully that will occur next week. The crews are training together every Monday night, as well as the staff are training daily with crews at Central Coast. The district now has the availability to do online training, thanks to Chief Mason, and I appreciate that. Just a note, today, due to a quick response from 4 different agencies, we had a CPR in the city of Seal Rock, in the community of Seal Rock, I should say, and that CPR was successful. Pulses were gained back on the individual. The individual was taken to PCH, where they were stabilized, and they were flown to Corvallis. At the scene, we had PacWest Ambulance, Seal Rock Fire District, Central Coast Fire District, and Yachats Fire District, with a total of 11 personnel on scene within minutes. So the patient had a very good outcome. The incident had provided this incident has provided life-saving measures. This is due to LifeFlight getting the patient to a cardiac hospital as quick as they could. Professional response, the quick and professional response from South County District shows that this IGA teamwork is working very well to save lives. It also provides firefighter safety when responding with more than one person. So I appreciate all the quick response to the different incidents, and this just shows that we have good response as well as good professional medical help. And this year alone, we've had 3 individuals that are able to now go and walk around the town and speak to their families because of our professional and medical treatment that we did on these individuals. So I'm very proud of all the responders that went on this call to have these individuals' lives saved. So I really appreciate that. And that's what I have for the intergovernmental agreement.
Oh, hey, Tom. Larry
Yes.
here.
Yes,
Before you leave intergovernmental agreement, you said there's going to be a meeting next week.
there is a survey out that has all the different dates that individuals can go to the meeting. We have to, in a consensus, make sure that everybody can go to at least to the one meeting that we have. So we're just waiting for everybody's schedule to not conflict so we can have the meeting at the oversight committee meeting.
Okay, so if there's a meeting next week, will you be able to make it? Will Peter be able to make it? Will John be able to make it?
That is if the survey comes back and it shows that all people can make it to the same day. Yes.
Okay, so you're committing that you will make it
that day.
So anyway, you and John and Peter are all committing that you'll make the meeting if it is next week.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yep, that's right.
Yeah, just to let you know, Larry, how this works. The survey was put out suggesting various times, and all of the interested parties were asked what times can they make. And once we get all the responses in, then we'll find out what dates everybody can get to, and that's when the meeting will be scheduled. And yes, we are committed to go to it.
I have something. This is Tina.
Sure.
So we're having issues, it sounds like, getting 6 people together all at once with these different dates. They've been different reasons why they've had to been canceled. So my suggestion is that we make it so that there only has to be 2 people from the district that can make it on each district instead of all 3 of them. So if one person just can't make a meeting, but the other 2 can, and they've got 2 or 3 in Seal Rock, at Central Coast, then that the meeting should still be a go. I think we should make it so that we don't have to have all 3 members be able to make it, but just at least 2.
Well, I appreciate that. Let's see what this Survey Monkey does. The last I heard, only 3 of the 6 people had responded, so we don't know that we don't have a meeting date. If, in fact, we continue to fail to get everybody available, then yes, the idea of maybe sending a quorum or a smaller representative group makes sense. Because we need to get this going.
Now because we haven't had one meeting yet.
Well, we've only looked at, this is the second try. So, it's not like we've been failing and failing and failing to get a meeting date. So, this is already in progress. Let's see how it goes. If we need to have fewer people to make this happen, we'll do that. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Let's move on to stations 6100 and 6200. Take it away, John.
Well, we know that Tina has expressed interest in selling the Falls building, and that we're having some issues with the zoning. But after a conversation with Larry the other day, I wanted to ask the board what their goals or desires are for the property that we have in Seal Rock. The station was designed for not having firefighters spend the night there. There's a possibility that the Red Station has a zoning that would allow us to have firefighters there, but we would probably have to tear the building down and build a new one. Or we may be able to have a conditional use permit at Falls building. So my thing is that we as the board need to express our will as terms of what we want from the property that we have in Seal Rock. My personal feeling is that I think that we should center our operations at Seal Rock. It's been great to use the Bayshore Station down there, but it would be good to be centrally located in Seal Rock. I would like to see us pursue the possibility. There was a conditional use permit filled out. I've been having a hard time figuring from the paperwork that's here what had happened with it. I've been in contact with a professional land use planner who has a good relationship with the county planning department. And she would be willing to review and let us understand why if in fact we did not have if we were denied the permit. So that's what this is on the agenda for. I don't know that we can all agree on something this evening, but I think that Larry's point is well taken, that we have to look 5 or 10 years out ahead and see what we want and what we expect, and then use that as a guiding light as in our decisions about the property. So I don't know if anyone else has thoughts about the Seal Rock Station, but I would like to hear them.
So thanks, John. It's Larry here. And I had went online at the at the county planning to see what all they had there, because I didn't want to bug the county planning people whenever it's all online. And the building is located in a tourist commercial zone, and the uses that are permitted in a tourist commercial zone are the same as what are permitted outright in an R4 zone, and none of those has a fire station listed there as a use. However, as John said, you can ask for a conditional use permit, and what all's allowed as a conditional use permit would be whatever's allowed in an R4 zone. That's just kind of redundant. A recreational vehicle park, an outdoor recreation development, an outdoor commercial amusement or recreation establishment, an automobile repair garage, provided all repairs conducted within the building, signs advertising a heliport, pilings, piers, docks, and similar water storage, and a mini storage, and that's about it. So what all I had mentioned to John is what all we may try to do with planning. It would be very time consuming and probably take a lot of elbow grease, but would be to try to get a land use swap, and we could probably, if we could find some more tourist commercial inventory that was available to swap out, we may be able to convince county planning to do a land use swap to get that into R1 or so, take something out of the other inventory. But it's not looking too good for that building being able to be used for anything other than storage building. And right now there's a lot of concerns about that. And we really need to start the process. I've been told that ex-board director Silverthorne had went down to county planning numerous times and tried to get them to do something, and they told him that it was kind of not going to happen. So I'm not real sure how the board would want to even address that problem. I'm not in favor of just getting rid of the building and losing what all investment we've got in it, and we've already budgeted money for it for this year. But it's kind of seems like a millstone hanging around the neck if we can't do anything with it, and it's something that we're all kind of stuck with. So I'm not real sure how to proceed. I don't even know where the contract is, and I would imagine someone knows where the original contract for purchase of the building is. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have that.
Okay. So could it be distributed to the other board members?
Yeah, you can talk to the chief. He has that paperwork.
Okay. And was the building was it June of 2017 that, as I go back and research the budget, it seems like it was June of 2017 whenever that building was first acquired. Is that right, or was it?
That sounds right. I don't know for sure.
I believe it was acquired before that.
Was it? It was either 16 or 17. I can't remember. I didn't write it down, but I saw it on the July budget that it was, the funds were budgeted. It was either July 2017 or 2016.
Larry, I have the paperwork here if you want to. It's over.
Yeah, if you just make a copy for me and put it in my box there at this 6200, I could just pick it up.
There's several pages, probably close to 50 pages. So if you come down to the station next week, you could look through it and let me know which ones you wanted copied.
Okay, that sounds like it can work.
Okay.
Thanks.
In addition to the original the purchase contract, is there any documentation? Larry mentioned that Mr. Silverthorne did some research about obtaining a conditional use permit or rezoning. Is there any documentation of those efforts?
Yes, there is, Dustin, on that. There was an application that was filled out and to bring to Lincoln County Planning Department, and Larry Silverthorne was doing that, yes.
And what was the disposition of that?
There wasn't any. I have not received anything, whether it was granted or not granted. But we do have the paperwork.
Okay.
That was sent in, the copy of the check that was sent in also.
Well, I think that's the crux of the question right now. I think in concept, it makes sense to relocate the headquarters for this district to a central location, especially considering how many of these emergencies are very time sensitive. I hesitate to reproduce the efforts that we've already gone through to try to figure out if this building is going to work or not. And the fact that there's not documentation about the previous efforts to make this building work is sort of frustrating, and it sounds like we need to start over at square one if there's no documentation of those efforts.
So, Peter, Larry here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Peter.
Did I hear Chief Sekeres say that he had a copy of the check that was submitted to county planning?
There is a check for $925 to Lincoln County, and
was it cashed or was it executed?
That I do not know, but I do have a copy that I made a photocopy of that check that was given to Lincoln County. We'll have to. We'll have to go back and research whether it was cashed or not.
So we may have $900 floating around that's never been accounted for?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that the check was given to Lincoln County by Larry Silverthorne, and whether the county cashed it or not, I do not know. We'll have to go back into the financials to see if they've been cashed.
Right, so we don't know if there is $900 floating around or not. It may just, yeah.
So when you come over, Larry, next week, you'll be able to see that document.
So we clearly have to continue researching this. Another thing that I would like to suggest to all of the new board members, which comes from a thing that a handout that I got from a conference that I went to a few years ago about developing board members, and this is a forehead slapper for me, but I think it would be beneficial for all of the board members, the new ones, to actually get a tour of all the buildings in the district. And I would suggest, you obviously come in individually, check, and have the chief show you around and show you what we have so that you've got a clearer picture. So I just throw that out there for you.
Hey, Peter, Larry here.
Yeah.
By buildings in the district, do you mean all of the structures within Seal Rock Fire District, or just the buildings and structures that Seal Rock Fire District uses within the response and that we have?
Yeah, basically the fire stations, we've all been in the admin building, but have we all been there are 3 station buildings, 4 if you count the little shelter that used to have the surf rescue equipment in it. And I think that the new members should have a chance to look it all over so that they can fully understand the infrastructure of the district.
And as I understand, there's a 5th building that houses the repeater. Is that correct?
That is correct.
I've never been there.
up. I haven't either, and I've been with the district for 25 years. So, yeah, that might be interesting. We don't publish its location for obvious reasons. But yeah, I think if you're interested in seeing that, ask the chief to take you up there. So, any other comments, John, or anybody else on the buildings? Okay, let's move on to the firefighter hiring process.
This is Chief Sekeres. The hiring process we had in June 29th and June 30th, we had an interview panel, and I'd like to thank Chief Mason, Dave Oliver, Andrew Lykin, and Adam Schmolze, who assisted in the process of doing the panel interview. We had a total of 16 people that applied. 3 people decided that they didn't want to go through the interview panel, and we had 1 no-show. So we did a total of 12 interviews. Out of the 12 interviews, the panel gave me 4 individuals to have a chief's interview. During the chief's interview, I gave them a basic firefighter test, and then I had them do a class for me on how to use an extinguisher, and then I asked them several questions. Out of the 4, I picked 2 individuals, one for the full-time position, which I have hired, which is Don Townley. He's lives in Waldport, Oregon. He was also at Central Coast. He's going to be a great asset for the district, and he started on July 4th. So I'd like to welcome John Townley to our Seal Rock firefighting group.
Chief,
And then I offered a part-time position to an individual.
Tom,
Yes,
Larry here. Could you spell John's last name, please?
Townley, Townley, Townley.
Thank you.
And I offered a part-time position to an individual, and I got a phone call last night stating that he did not want the position, the part-time position. So what I'm going to be doing is contacting the next person in line to see if they wanted the position. It is difficult right now to get somebody to come in as a part-time position for the $13.25, and most of them will be coming from coming from the Valley. So what I would be asking the board, if we can up that amount to make it more feasible for people to do the part-time work. I don't think that we're going to get a whole lot of interest for $13.25. I'm asking the board if we can raise the price of that. We may get better interest if somebody take the part-time position. And I just wanted the thoughts from the board.
So do you have a suggested rate?
I have a suggested rate of at least $15 an hour.
Okay.
Was that
And that's
15?
1.5?
1.5, yes.
Thank you.
And that would fit within the budget?
Yes.
Okay.
Because the individual that we hire part-time can only work 600 hours. So if they work every other week, that will fulfill the whole year for that part-time position. So they can only work 30 hours a week.
So, Tom, Larry here, and I apologize because it's really hard to get all the sounds and everything over my little phone here. But you said you just hired one person, John Townley, and that you had contacted a part-time person who said they weren't interested. Is that all? We just have only hired John now?
We've only hired John now, so we have 3 full-time staff personnel. And what I am also doing, I'm using per diem some individuals from Yahat and Central Coast to work if our staff does not want to work the overtime. I'm doing the per diem for the firefighters from Yahat in the shifts, and which they have so far. So we haven't had a day that hasn't been covered.
Okay, so I'm just trying to get clear in my head. We've only hired the one person. We haven't hired any part-timers at all.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Tom,
Yes,
would you spell Dawn's last name again?
Townley, Townley.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So you're doing per diem with people. So you are basically having people on our staff if they're per diem, correct?
Correct.
We are paying them.
Yes, that is correct.
And you've given them a packet, a hire on packet.
Yes.
So they are part of our staff. So you have hired people.
They are just DM if our individuals do not want to work. They're individuals that work at Central Coast and at their regular, and they know our district, they know our equipment. So that's why they're being used to fill in overtime. Yes.
Okay. So then why are we not hiring 2 part-time positions or one other full-time position to fill Kyle's spot?
We could, but that's going to exceed. And I have to work the numbers. That might exceed the amount of the levy. Plus, they have to do their overtime and FLSA. So that also has to be calculated into the amount of what we pay out. And the board should have received that information when John put out that information back last month. So if you want me to resend that and redo some numbers, I could redo some numbers and go from there and let you guys see what the numbers are.
Okay, that's probably a good idea. All right. Anything further on firefighter hiring process? Let us then go on to new business, which would be the chief's report.
Okay, this month, like I said, I spent the majority of my time doing the hiring process. I also attended the monthly Fire Defense Board phone conference that we have every month. I attended the weekly IGA. I also attended the weekly League of Cities online meetings, and I also attended the reorganization meeting for Seal Rock Fire Association. And then I, again, like I said, I did the interview process the 29th, 30th, and the 3rd, and we hired the individual. So that's the chief's report for that there. I'll give you the incident calculations this month. We had a total of 39 EMS calls, 3 motor vehicle accidents, 3 public assistance calls, 8 dispatched canceled en route, 1 alarm activation, 1 vehicle fire, 1 heat from an appliance, and 1 structure fire for a total of 57 calls last month. That is all that I have.
All right, then. Next item would be the fire district goals and vision.
This is the fire chief again. I would like to ask the board so we can have a work session regarding district goals, board goals, and the vision of what our district is going to be in the future. So I would like to ask the board if we can get together on a study session to get those all started. It's going to be really good for us to put that in our annual report. So if I will send out some dates and times that we can get together and just have a study group and to see what the district goals are as well as board goals, so we can get go on forward and see what our vision is in the future.
Yeah, and I would think that we should expect to spend at least a couple of hours, if not more, in this. It would take a while for us to hammer out exactly what our expectations are. So,
I already have the mission. I already have the mission, vision, values of the organization. So what we need to do is expand on that and expand on the goals of the district and the goals of the board. So yes, it might be a 2-day work session. It might be, a 5-hour work session, but I want this to be comprehensive and for the board, myself, to get together and do a comprehensive goals and vision for the district. Being that this is a new fiscal year, I think that's appropriate.
And Peter, it's Larry. I'm the one that asked for this to be added to the agenda tonight, and I talked in short with John about it. I kind of talked to I think Chief and maybe even Tina to I don't know if I've talked to you about it or not, but I've gone through some things that I want to get out right now at this about to get into the minutes, and I'll send a list of these to Mary Lou. So it's so hard to hear, but I'll get my list here that I have, and I was hoping that, especially now that we're going to be able to have a work session meeting, that each of the other directors would come up with a list of short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals. And I want to run through these real fast. On short-term goals, what all we really need is we need to get a heart monitor. We also need to get our extrication tools updated. We've been having an increasing number of traffic accidents. It's almost phenomenal how many accidents are happening between the two districts. And that's something that maybe both the districts could go on to get a really good set of extrication tools. We need to get that repeater fully operational. It's been at least 5 or 6 months now that we've been waiting on batteries. I don't know what the deal of it is, but we really need to get our repeater operational. Yes, sir.
Larry, this is the fire chief. Just to let you know, the batteries have been ordered, and we need to pick them up in Portland sometime, not this week, next week. They'll be ready for us, and then the repeater will be completely completed.
And I'm sure if you let Dave or I know, we'll both hop in our car or whatever it is and run up there and pick them up. We also need to establish a staff hierarchy. We need to make a decision about the electronic reader board. We need to get something going on our gear, wildline, and et cetera. And we've got a grant, and we may be able to qualify for another grant, but we need to get this money spent. We need to get rid of the surf rescue stuff. If we're not going to be using it, we can either sell the jet skis or the rig or the trailer. It's just sitting there taking up space. We need to finalize Lexipol. I don't know where we're at on that. It seems the board was hot on it. We had a lot of stuff going on, then all of a sudden it's just kind of disappeared. We need to get the SOGs completed, the standard operating guidelines, and we need to get them published. We need to have communication between the board members. We need to have budget training. We need to add information station to our meeting posting and any other local thing that's out there. I think it'd be a nominal fee for them to put us in their monthly meeting schedule. We need to overhaul our meeting protocols because we are not allowing for public comment necessarily. We're not acknowledging letters, and we don't have to make comments on letters, but we should at least acknowledge our constituents and district personnel that are taking the time to write letters. We need to retire 6201. It's just sitting there taking up space, and it's so old. We need to resolve the issue that we've talked about concerning Station 6200 and 6100. Those are real serious issues. We need to determine something about the Suburban. because the Suburban, do we really need 2 chief's cars? We need to get all staff and volunteer personnel and proper PPEs. We need to establish a volunteer recruitment and training advancement program. We need to get scheduling of staff published. I've tried to get some type of a thing to where I personally know, or where I think each board member should know who's on duty and what's going on whenever that is, but I haven't been able to get that. We need to expand our private rooms upstairs in 6300. And then for some time I've been asking for a complete demo and dispo process, especially if we're going to be getting some of this equipment retired. And those are the short-term goals. Midterm goals, I would love to see us be able to acquire a drone and have qualified operators. I think this is something that would really help the district. I know there's several times that we've been looking for someone that's injured and we can't find them. I think a drone would help. We need to get the septic issue at 6300. Either we're going to get that worked out with the Baymart or so. Got to get something done on that. And the midterm, the next 3 years, we're going to have to retire 6207. So we need to be working towards getting another engine. I think we're doing that with, in some respects, with Central Coast, but I'm not sure. We're also going to have that bond measure staring us in the face, and how we're going to do that. And within 3 years, we need to finalize the status of 6100 as to what's going to happen there. I'd like to be able to find laptops for each district director and our secretary and the fire chief, because it's just not good to have all this stuff on your own personal computer. And a lot of the districts and other boards are going towards that idea. We also will need to review the intergovernmental agreement scenario, and then we need to see if the bond issues fail, what we're going to do with the district, because it's going to become increasingly more difficult. And we need, for long-term goals, I would love to be able to define, discover, and implement all building upgrades. We would need to secure 5 full-time staff and a chief, and 2 fully trained and certified volunteer firefighters, and 4 support personnel. I think that's a worthy goal. I know questions were asked about, do we want volunteers? Yes, we really want volunteers. We need to have a fully operational surf beach rig, and this is not something that has the jet skis on it. This is a rig that if someone gets called out, one of our staff or volunteers will, to where they can respond on the beach to somebody that is in distress, or someone that is needing to be helped once they are fished out by the Coast Guard from the ocean whatsoever. We really should be able to have something to where we can go down on the beach. I know we had an incident in which a person got swept out by a wave. They were fortunately washed up on beach, but we had no means to get them from where they were, so they ended up walking out. And we need to establish a student resident program, firefighter, and if we could get a new building gone up and accomplished. And those are just goals, short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals that I had. And I hope that the rest of the board members have a vision. To quote an old proverb, where there's no vision, the people perish. And so we need to have a vision for this district. Thanks. I'll get that to you, Mary Lou.
Do you have my email address?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I will be starting the minutes at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, and they will be done by noon. So I'm going to need this either tonight or first thing in the morning.
I hear you. I'll do it.
Thank you.
I have a question on that. With our future goals and with Chief wanting to meet us and do a strategy session, how about involving Central Coast in that too? since they're going to be a big part of our moving forward in the long term, I believe.
I think eventually that should occur, but right now I think we should just focus within our district what our goals and visions are, and then we can, elaborate from that. So I think it's appropriate that we do that first, and then invite the other districts to participate in our goal planning.
And I would concur with that, because we want to just center right now on the problem at hand or the situation at hand. And if we brought in other agencies, they would kind of want to mix in their goals, possibly.
Okay.
All right. Any other comments or goals and vision?
I do. I had brought up the Citizen Advisory Committee, and somehow that has dropped off. I think that is part of our future, and I think we need to address that tonight.
So would you want that to be, Larry here, Tina, would you want that to be a short-term, long-term, or mid-term goal?
But I want that to be a long-term. I think we need to have people that are helping our citizens be able to get their comments and their needs to us and be able to talk to us and have these people available.
Okay, let me rephrase that. A short-term goal is something to be done within the next year, midterm 2 to 3 years, and long-term 5 years out. So you would want that to be a short-term goal?
Yeah, I want that to be I expressed 2 meetings ago that I would like a committee made and have that be done. And it just kind of has now not been talked about since I said this. So I think that we should try to get this committee and have it up and running by the next meeting. Okay. So it would be a short-term goal that will work into our long-term plan.
And Peter, this is Larry again. That seems to be the direction, in a way, that the Volunteer Association, as I said several weeks ago, we've been undergoing some changes, and we're now more of a firefighter association support type. There's no distinctions between paid and volunteers, and so I know for me, and I don't know if Dave's still there or not, but to me, I would love for the that Firefighter Volunteer Association to be kind of integrated as a community type of a thing, because that way people in the community would get a feel for the district and what's actually happening and occurring, and not be so out there. And the everyone is always welcome to attend the Firefighter Association meetings the last Tuesday of the month. We've been having to meet like this due to COVID, but that's something that I would like to see. But that's just me. It's my thought.
Well, to start with the Firefighters Association, I think that you should be free to develop whatever programs you would like to develop, as long as they support the firefighters in the district. So, yeah, if there's a methodology that you have for involving interaction between the firefighters and the public, that's terrific. I mean, outreach to our constituents is an important thing, and if the firefighters are excited about that, that's great. As far as the advisory committee is concerned, I'm wondering how the advisory committee would be different than the board, other than not having the ability to create policy for the district? In other words, we were all elected as public representatives, and the public is free to come to any of us with their concerns. And I don't know, and perhaps you can explain to me, Tina, what the advisory committee would contribute beyond that.
And I would actually refer to Dustin on that, because Dustin was the one who originally brought it up. I thought it was a great idea. He has been involved in something like that before, and so it gives the community a platform of people that they can talk to and not worry about being directly at the board, I believe. But Dustin can better explain on that.
Yeah.
I think it's a function of, I think the value that I've seen in advisory committees of this nature is that they're able to take several different points of view and distill that down and maybe refine those ideas so that they can be communicated to the board.
Well, that sounds like a wonderful thing.
Was that Dustin?
Yeah, I think it's more of a function of efficiency than anything else.
Yeah, if they are a supportive group that can distill the thoughts that they receive from others and bring them to us in a form that we can act on, that would add an efficiency. That's my thought. Does anybody else have thoughts regarding this?
Yeah, this is John. I think it sounds like a good idea. It would be, depends on what kind of a structure was built. We would have to, have some policies or guidelines on how it would be, what our relationship between the board and the committee would be.
Right.
It's something,
Is Chief Woodson still online? Chief Woodson.
Yes, I'm right here. I
you are.
get it off.
Yeah,
Chief Woodson,
you had to get it off mute.
Well,
That's when I say all my really wise stuff.
Correct.
Is when
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Chief Woodson, this is Dustin. Do you guys still have the Citizen Advisory Committee active down there in Waldport?
Well, yes and no, Dustin. Peter Karlik, as you know, well, he was an active member and he always showed up for our board meetings. Ruth Stoll, she shows up. Don Chen, I haven't seen for a long time, but in theory, and Pam Pitts, Pam's still around, but I get a little, they come in and visit with me, but the only one that ever showed up for meetings was Peter Karlik.
Okay. Well, maybe what the best thing to do is to have Chief Sekeres and Chief Woodson get together and discuss how the Citizen Advisory Committee worked, especially when it was working really well and they were really active down in Waldport, and bring that to the strategic planning meeting that we're going to be having here very shortly and present that information, and we can make a decision and go from there.
And Dustin, if I can jump in one more time, I consider it a good thing that, well, there was, as you know, there was a lot of interaction and a lot of contentious meetings in Waldport, and then, things started dying down because we're moving forward, we're doing things the way they wanted the things to go, and now they know I'm approachable, and they can contact me and come to the board meetings, and so I think that's a good thing on our side.
Yeah, no, I really do think that was a good thing to to have set up, and I like the way that it worked, and that's why I thought that it would be a good opportunity for us to just shamelessly steal the hard work that you have already done establishing those lines of communications. So thank you very much, Chief Woodson.
Oh, it's absolutely the right, get citizen involvement. They have a voice, and it's a good thing to do.
Well,
This is Chief Karras. I'll get together with Chief Woodson and we do our district goals and visions. We can do a presentation and go from there. I think it's a very good idea to get a citizens advisory committee.
Yeah, I'm very gratified that there's a model that we can draw on. And so, yeah, if the two chiefs would like to get together, and I don't know whether you want to be in there, Dustin, as well, as far as formulating the format for it. But yeah, that we should get going. I agree.
Dustin,
Okay, good.
Dustin, would you like to be invited to the meeting? I'll get some time.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, then. Anything
And then
further
I
on that?
No, I
go
have
ahead.
one more short-term goal. I would like to motion that we get these boys a Zoll monitor, that we purchase one. And I want that to be a short-term goal that happens now, because the one that they were using as a loaner to demonstrate, which has been part of these successes of all these CPRs and these medical calls that we keep talking about, is now back where it doesn't, it's back with the Zoll company. So I think it's time to step up and purchase this for these boys.
Who can use a Zoll?
What is the cost for one of the Zoll monitors? And it is my understanding that EMTs can only assist in putting on the electrodes, but cannot interpret the monitors. Is that correct?
Okay. No, the monitor can be put on and used as an AED. So it does blood pressures, it does heart rate, it does AED mode. It does more than just look pretty and help paramedics. It actually does everything for all EMS bases, EMRs, everything.
Okay, so EMRs can use that also as an AED?
That is correct.
Okay. And do you happen to know the cost of that? Because it's not in the budget. Do you happen to know what the cost of one of those are?
I'll have to get it to you. I don't have it off the top of my head right now.
I think, Chief Woodson, are you still on the line?
Yes, Chief Sakaris, I am. I bought a refurbed Zoll, and it was, and I had to haggle for it, of course. But I think it was like $28,000 for a refurbed one, and no more than we carry it and we use it, but we're not like PacWest where you're using it constantly. So, but $28,000 was for a refurb, and it meets all the specifications.
Okay, Chief Woodson, is it okay if I come over there when we meet together? I wanted to take a peek at that Zoll and see what the different functions that it is, and if it can be utilized in our situation.
Yeah, yes, absolutely, Chief, and it will work as you can use it in AED mode, or you can use it as the paramedic arrives. You've got your oscilloscope. You can do the 12 leads and everything else, just like we performed on the scene today. Okay,
and this is Fire Chief. Are the Zoll monitors compatible with the PacWest monitors?
Yes,
absolutely.
That's why we are using Zolls. That's exactly what they use. So if we get our pads on the patient, then all they have to do is unplug or replug. And today, Chief, they used our monitor the entire time, and then just plugged it in when they got into the ambulance.
So that Zoll monitor will replace the AEDs that we currently have, correct?
Correct.
Well, yes, that's correct, as long as they have it in AED mode.
Okay. So one monitor, plus we still have to put a monitor in the equipment here at 6,100, which we have the AEDs, that will go out on the first out piece of equipment if we decide to purchase that. So I will be talking to Chief Woodson and get some information regarding that and see if we can get that into our budget from capital equipment. So that's a big chunk of money that we're going to be using, and we need to see if that is going to be appropriate and fiscally responsible to get. So yes, I will look into that and give you a report next month.
So I have a question. This is John. Tina, have you looked at the budget and determined what line item we would purchase that piece of equipment with?
I think we could take it out of the building and budget funds with not an issue.
We could take it out of the building fund?
Building and, the building fund. Just move it over.
Well, it's not quite so simple, I don't think, in budgets. You can't just move money around that's been budgeted for certain particular items. Like I notice here in the materials and services under the general fund, there's a line item for medical supplies, and it's $3,000.
Okay, then riddle me this. How are we paying those per diem? How much are we paying those per diem firefighters an hour?
$20 an hour.
And how are we paying them if there's not a line item out of it right now?
That comes out of the
They're being paid.
levy.
Yeah, and also the general fund has transferred $35,000 into the firefighter levy to cover that expense.
Okay, so why can't we move it out of the general fund?
Well, we would have to amend the budget.
Well, we do that all the time.
No, not at this scale.
No,
For something of this scale, we would have to have an entirely complete budget process to change the budget for a transfer of this size.
Okay, then we need to look at how we can do that. This is an important piece of equipment.
Yeah, I'm not being negative about the piece of equipment. If it's something that's necessary to provide good service in the district, then we should attempt to purchase it. But we do need to stay within our budget limitations. And
okay.
And if we need to redo a budget, maybe we do need to redo a budget. But that's all those kinds of considerations need to be taken into account before we actually make the purchase.
This is Chief Woodson, if I can jump in here. We do this from time to time, and it takes a budget resolution from the board to reallocate funds from building and services to medical supplies or medical equipment, and you can do that with just a budget resolution.
Jerry, Chief Woodson, this is Steve Sekeres. Can you do that without redoing the whole budget? And
absolutely, Chief Sekeres, you can, and I'll share you the information. But because I've had some challenges with vehicle maintenance and this and that, so we do a budget resolution to reallocate funds from one line item account in the budget to the vehicle maintenance account. So yeah, I can share that with you.
Okay, and is it based on a certain amount of money that is reallocated, or is it just a broad amount of money?
No, if you say, well, we need X number of dollars for a cardiac monitor and defibrillator, then the board would do a budget resolution and then transfer that amount from one sub-account to the other sub-account, but it does not affect your overall budget. The budget amount stays the same.
Okay. If I can get that information, and then I will present that to the board, and we'll probably present that at the goals and division meeting that we have. But yes, I'll start working on that.
So, Larry here. Peter?
Yes.
Yeah, Larry here. Chief,
Chief Woodson's absolutely correct on that. That's just the standard procedure in instances like this. Whenever you need to do something like that, to have a resolution. However, you don't want to go overboard. And I would say that if that Tina maybe did her motion a little bit different to where she could say that by the next meeting to have a exact figure of how much this unit's going to cost and a resolution process on order for the board to consider the resolution and the cost, because I've heard all kinds of difference in prices from what Chief Woodson said they're 11,000 all the way up to 60,000, and so what all we need to know is exactly what all it is going to cost, and then we could discuss it at the meeting that Chief Sakara said he wants to set up. But I would like to see the resolution and the final cost on an item, because if it's 11,000, that's fairly doable, because it was just not 2 months ago whenever we had a thing kind of thrown out to possibly spend 20,000 to look at filling 6,100 just to see what all we could do with it. So, yeah, I think that would be well within the purvey if she wanted to alter her motion to say something like that and then get Mary Lou to read it back.
No, I've got a question. Larry, this is the fire chief. So you've heard that the Zoll monitors can be as low as $11,000?
I thought that's what Chief Woodson said, was that he had found some there for 11,000. I may have misheard him because my phone here, the speaker on it's not the greatest.
You did mishear.
Yeah,
okay,
yes, Larry, Chief Woodson here. I bought a refurbed model from Zoll, and it was $28,000. The brand new ones are like $45,000. These are all factory refurbed, and they meet all the current criteria for things. But yeah, 28,000.
Okay, I don't know where I heard the 11, but I thought I heard 11 there, so I apologize.
Chief Woodson, this is Chief Sakaris. On that 28,000, what was the asking price on that before you were haggling down?
Chief Sakaris, I was dealing with the Zoll representative, and he was asking a certain price, and I found a competitor's model, and so I did some serious haggling there, and so I ended up getting the Zoll monitor and defibrillator, and also an AED included, and I purchased that, and I'll share all that with you, Tom, because I've got all that stuff, and then you can hold him to the fire to, I'm a haggler.
Oh, I agree. If we could be fiscally responsible in getting this, I agree. If it's a purchase that we decide to do, so yes, we'll go forward with that, and I will at the goals and vision meeting that we have, we can discuss that monitor.
And then Mary Lou, I would revise my motion to express that we have the financial resolution for the monitor by next meeting with the information that we have going forward to get a monitor. Is that right?
Tina,
right?
I'm trying to write this down. You need to slow down.
Sorry.
So far, I've got a motion for financial what?
Resolution to be able to purchase the monitor.
Tina, since there's going to be some research here, why don't we save resolutions for the next meeting?
I think
Then
that's a
we've
good
got
idea
more
because we're not
information.
going to be purchased. It sounds like the resolution is that we're going to purchase it. And,
No, just we need.
From what I understand, that you guys, what you're saying is that the resolution is to be able to transfer the funds. Is that correct?
Right, to study and the process for presenting a resolution to purchase a Zoll monitor once we get all the information. And then that would be a topic that would be on next meeting's agenda. But right now, we're kind of shooting in the dark, in my opinion, because we don't know what it's going to cost. And then we would have to decide if we're going to have a resolution from what area we would withdraw the funds from.
Okay, I agree. I agree what you're saying. So, is it prudent that we make that motion now, or wait, as Board Member Benjamin said, wait until next meeting to see exactly, or wait until we do the vision meeting and then decide whether we're going to do the resolution or not?
Yeah, we don't need a resolution now because
Okay.
we
No, we don't need. We do need to have a study on finding out the cost and on finding where we're going to take the money from in the resolution in order to put it in the proper account.
And we've already agreed to do that.
Okay.
And I do the monitor that we had, the youth monitor that we had up at the station cost $30,000.
So, Tina, this is Dustin. What does a Zoll E, M, or X series do that a Zoll AED Plus doesn't do? And why do we need to consider spending $20,000 on a fancy piece of equipment that the personnel are not trained or legally authorized to use when we can buy a Zoll AED for $800?
Well, why would we not want to be uniformed within our district with everybody? So when we are running these multiple calls with our higher call volume, why would we not want to be able to have a uniformity with everybody? That would be my
That's
question.
why it would make sense to purchase a Zoll AED so that our personnel can utilize it to their full and legal capacity. And then when a higher level of care arrives on scene, the AED is compatible with the monitors that you guys use on your ambulance, the same ones that we use on our helicopter.
Dustin, this is Chief Woodson. So
Yeah.
our cardiac arrest today, the Cedar Rock unit arrived on scene before our units did, and our unit had our Zoll X Series monitor. Your Cedar Rock unit started CPR, and we applied our monitor, and all the DFib pads and everything else, and we were able to transfer that directly. We used our monitor until we put them in PacWest ambulance. So that's my reason for the continuity of care and the having it, and instead of just the AED, at least when the paramedics get there, then here it is, and so we didn't have to interrupt anything.
Right, and that's why I'm suggesting that it might be most cost effective to utilize AED that is manufactured by Zoll and has the same connection, so that when the higher level of care does arrive, that you simply plug it into their machine. I guess what I'm saying is it seems like a pretty expensive premium to pay for an automated blood pressure cuff, which is essentially the only additional piece of equipment or feature that this $28,000 piece of equipment can offer our personnel at the level that they're trained when compared to an $800 Zoll AED Plus.
But Dustin, that's John is advanced, so he can use the monitor to its full capacity. Eric and Joe are both paramedics, so they can use it to the full capacity too. So it's not something that can't be ever used to the full capacity. It could be 100% used to the full capacity with the people that we are hiring and have on staff now.
So can I weigh in here? This is Peter. My feeling is I agree with Dustin. We don't have anybody here who's qualified to take advantage of everything that a full monitor can bring forward. In fact, I have been the only person who was authorized to use it since I got here 25 years ago because I was an EMT intermediate. So I could use the full capacity.
John, we now have an advanced and 2 paramedics on board.
On board what? We have a paramedic at Steel Rock?
We have 2.
All right. I was not aware of that.
Which 2 paramedics do we have at Rock?
You have Joe Schwab, who you have as per diem, and you have Eric Stafford, who you've hired as per diem.
Okay, and those individuals, just so I'm clear, those individuals will just be working to fill in overtime that our individuals do not take. So,
well, they'll hardly be around here.
Okay, what about John, who's our full-timer?
John is I believe he's an intermediate.
He's an advanced, but yes.
So,
Advanced intermediate.
I just want to make sure that, you know, as Dustin and Peter Benjamin were saying, is that going to be fiscally responsible for our district to purchase a big purchase like that? And would it be advantageous for us to get that when we have EMTs and one advanced, and we have PacWest coming to the call as well as Central Coast? So, you know, these are some of the things that I need to look at as the fire chief to make sure that that's fiscally responsible and to see if it's feasible. That's why I'm going to be getting all the feedback from each and every one of the board members, as well as from Chief Woodson, and I'll be talking to the general manager at PacWest to see his thoughts on that. So there's a lot of discussion that I'm going to be doing with the different individuals to make sure that if we are to purchase a big purchase like this, or do we want to purchase, like board member Joel said, purchase the advanced AED. So those are some of the things that I'm going to be asking questions on and doing the research on. So doing everything, you know, real quickly and do it, you know, have everything done tomorrow, no, that's not going to happen. What I need to do is research it and make sure that that is what the district needs, and if not, what is an alternative that we need. So that's some of the things that I'll be doing. Any questions on that?
That's fair. Yep, that's fair.
All right, then.
Peter,
So, yeah.
we have a motion on the floor.
Was there actually a motion?
I withdraw the motion.
Thank you.
All right, perfect. Okay, anything further on those subjects? So let us go on to public comments. Does anybody have comments to make from the public? Yes. Okay.
Can I have Eric's name, please? Eric, would you spell your name again, please? You're cutting out. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah. So I am not uneasy. This is Peter. I'm not uneasy because this allows more people to attend the meetings, and these are public meetings, of course. And so, if that is an easier way than a teleconference, and it probably is, I think that's terrific. I presume. I don't know the answer to that. I assume. I don't think there's any plans for secrecy here.
So Eric, and Peter, it's Larry here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not against having these things being broadcast. I think that all meetings that are held are public meetings, and I encourage the public to attend and to participate in the meetings. And so I don't even like executive meetings. I think I've gone on record. I really think that the public should know everything that's happening in a meeting. So thank you, Eric and Wendy, for doing this. And yeah, I would be dead set opposed to anybody having private meetings. Thanks.
Good. We appreciate that. Okay, well, that sounds like yes, it does. It sounds like a good structure, and I would think that Dustin and Chief Woodson, who are familiar with this format, will include that in their discussions on how we form the committee. Good. Well, we've already resolved that that's what we're going to do is figure out how to put that together and invite citizens to participate.
$61.
Yes, go ahead. I don't see any reason why not. Well, Yeah, that's fine. You know, I don't know how much we need to put on the website, but anybody can come in and ask the chief to look at it.
Yes. If they do that, they'll need to do their public records request, and we'll certainly get that information if we have that to them. Yes.
That's our thinking.
Well, when did we discuss that tonight?
I think that this is Chief Sakaris. I think that is an operational decision that we're going to have to make, and that we need to look at all the statistical information regarding that and what exactly happened with the building. So on that note, if the board wants to make any discussions or comments on that, they should feel free to do so, or just take it into consideration.
Yeah. So just so that you're clear, operation decisions are decisions made by the chief, because he's the chief executive officer of the fire district, and it's the role of the board is more setting policy. So as far as where equipment or people are stationed, that's the chief's decision. Well, another thing to realize, yeah, it is operational, and we do have mutual aid agreement with Central Coast. So whenever there's a call in any part of our district, Central Coast Fire also gets the call and responds to it. So it's whoever gets there first. Yeah. Well, we got to help each other out. I'm not familiar with that.
So did you say a variance on the red building or on the green building? Yeah, it's in an R1, so it's okay. The red building is in an R1 and it's okay.
Well, much of the discussion we had tonight was about the green building and its relationship to the planning department as far as its use as a fire station. And this is an area that we're exploring. Well,
Eric,
Right,
that's what we're exploring.
Eric, this
Well,
is,
yeah,
like Board Member Benjamin said, this is what we're going to be exploring to make sure that if we can use it and get a variance on that, get a permit to do a variance on that. We are exploring that right now.
Right, and on that variance, it's going to either have to be a conforming or non-conforming. If it's deemed non-conforming a variance, then there's no way. It would have to be conforming use, and that would be only whatever the Lincoln County planning.
Yeah, what Lincoln County Planning has for the conditional use permit.
Well, on a variance, that's a different thing. So.
This is Mickey Lindquist, and I realize that you're not going to answer my questions or whatever, but I would like to talk to you about a few things, mostly about the advisory committee. I have been on several advisory committees through the years in the city that I lived in for many years, starting as early as 1958. Committees like the Safety Committee and the Community Promotion Committee for the City of Norwalk and the Recreation Department. I've had a lot of experience with that, but we have no governing body in Seal Rock. I don't think that we should be connected with Walport. They have their own governing bodies and maybe their city council or whatever they do up there, but I think our committee should be about Seal Rock, not connected Walport with their governing bodies. We have our own. I have a suggestion that maybe each board member could appoint 2 people, which would give you 10, and you need an odd number, so then you could have a representative from one of the 5 board members to also go to those meetings to help advise and whatever. And if I can be of any help to you at all, be happy to help you because I've had a lot of experience with these things. And advisory committees are really good. They don't make decisions, they just make suggestions, and it's amazing how many any good suggestions they get, because there are a lot of intelligent people who live in Steel Rock. And I realize you're not going to answer me, but anyway, if I can help you at all, that's why I'm here. I realize I'm old as the hills, but I certainly have had experience in all this community service since I was probably 11 years old. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you, Mickey. I think we just found the chair for the advisory committee. Yeah, I think our all right. Well, we will put our thinking caps on and see if we can make that practical. Okay. So, is there anyone else with public comments? All right, let's move on to board comments then.
This is Mickey. I have one more comment.
Yes, go, Mickey.
Eric referred to a lot of anonymous calls or a lot of anonymous suggestions or whatever. If people have something to say, they should stand up and say it and get involved and not have to go through everybody else and keep everything secretive or whatever. Stand up and be heard if you have something to say. Everybody's opinion counts regardless of what it is.
Well, I would agree with you, but if you've got something to say, you should have the temerity to identify yourself. we would like to hear from citizens whether they put their name on it or not. I just agree with Mickey that it would be really nice to be able to respond directly to whoever the questioner is. That's fine. That makes perfect sense to me. So, board comments. Shall we start with John?
Yeah, we can start with John. My one comment is I just wanted to have it on the record that I did receive a piece of certified mail from the local committee here in Seal Rock. I wanted to thank you for your input. We have referred it to our legal counsel. I also want to reference in that report, it said that I hadn't recognized other letters. It's my memory of in the June meeting that in fact I did recognize that, and again said that we were not going to discuss the letters, but rather take them under advisement. I want to apologize if there was a misunderstanding there. We do take comments from the public seriously. Yeah, so that's all I have to say.
Okay, let's move on to Larry.
Yeah, I had a couple of things. I was glad that Eric brought that up. I had kind of mentioned somewhat the possibility or an idea. The building right next to where we used to meet has 2 garage doors. And I was hoping that what we would be able to do would be able to open up those garage doors, and the weather permitting, then we could hold our board meeting there where everyone can do the 6-foot distancing and wear their mask, and then put chairs and tables on out at the 6 foot into the parking area if we needed to. And I was kind of wanting to float that in front of the board for the next meeting. Surely we could see 30 people or so there fairly easily within the guidelines that there are. That's something to consider. I don't know if anybody else has anything on that. Then also, I've attended a lot of trainings, and I wanted to reiterate, I'd give the information to Chief Sekeres that I was able to attend the 4.5-hour program through SDAO that would qualify for 15 points off on our insurance, and give that information to Chief Sekeres so he can file or whatsoever with SDAO. And then also I attended a training put on by the International Safety Program people, which they have some really fantastic trainings. And this one that was most enlightening was called First to Respond, Last to Seek for Help. And Dr. Odom was the one that taught on this. He has a large clinic in California where he treats police officers and also firefighters that's suffering from PTSD. And he had disclosed in his information that post-traumatic stress disorder, a lot of times firefighters and police officers will not seek help because they don't want the stigma of having a disorder, that they feel like that's something that a disorder lasts forever and you're tainted and you're never going to be right. And he said that was a poor choice of words, that what actually firefighters and police personnel are enduring is a post-traumatic stress injury. And he said an injury, as all emergency medical responders especially know, an injury can be addressed and treated. And so I think that's very important as we look at some of our firefighters and our volunteer personnel, because it is a rather traumatic job or love of doing something. And so if we can get that across, that it's not a disorder, that this is an injury, and to seek the proper treatment. If you have a cut, you're not just going to ignore it. You're going to apply the correct principles, and that we need to be aware of all of our staff and volunteer personnel, that we are taking care of them. And so I hope all of you can attend that training at some point in time, or have done something similar. And that's all that I had to report.
Okay. On to Tina.
The only thing I have is that the only thing I have is that I would like to have in-person meetings. These over-the-phone ones kind of suck. And I think Larry has a good point. We can have these. I know I talked to Sakaris a few times and said that I would like to do this. And so I would like to see us try to do that.
Well, let's, I think the chief probably can open up the doors.
I believe that the governor's orders were on public meetings. That's going to be right now is 10 or less. And I have to look at the executive orders regarding that. So we're still in this COVID-19 situation, and with the governor's executive orders, that's something I have to look into to see how many people can attend the meeting in person.
Yeah, even if we get the social distancing, with 5 board members, the chief, and the recording secretary, that only leaves 3 slots for the public. And we don't want to restrict the public's participation. So until things change, I'm not sure this is doable. I love the idea of getting back to a real meeting, but unless we can come up with a hybrid where we have 3 live attendees and everybody else on some media, we've got this restriction which we need to honor.
But we need to check and make sure that it is 10 people.
It is.
It is. Yes.
Okay, that's good. So, Dustin.
I don't think I have anything to add. I think we covered pretty much all of it.
We've covered pretty much all. Okay, the only thing that I have basically is that I would love to get to know the 3 newer board members better. So I'd like to sit down one-to-one with each of you to have a chance to get to know you better. Because I'd like to find out where your strengths are and what the best role that, the things that I can turn to you individually for. So if you don't mind, I'm going to be giving you guys a call and see if we can arrange for an in-person meeting at the fire hall with the appropriate distancing and all, so that we can talk. So
sounds good to me, Larry.
Okay. So, is there anything else? All right. So I am going to call the meeting closed at 4 minutes after 9 or 21:04 military time.